Your source for all things Texas Tech. This is the Ask Level podcast from Double T 97.3.
Hey, what's going on? Welcome into another episode of the Ask Level podcast. Alongside Chris Level, I'm Chois Woodman. This episode, as usual, brought to you by our friends at Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Texas Tech, well, we're on the other side of another Red Raider loss. Tech loses 35-34 to TCU in a game that, well, went Texas Tech's way for a good chunk of it, but you still see another loss in that column. Level, the floor is yours.
Yeah, this is like what's the meme of the kid that's in the red shirt and he's like on the rail and he's like kind of like this and he's just like
just holding your guns up.
Yeah, it's just like, but I've got nothing left, but my gun's still. Yeah, that.
Sure.
Yeah, over the weekend it was just about you didn't get a result, and that's ultimately all that matters.
Yep.
That's all anybody cares about. Left to right hand column, and that. And I'm going to say something that you may not agree with, but where I'm coming from it is the following. But I feel like this one was a lot harder to stomach than the Baylor game. A lot, by a significant amount. And here's why I say that. You got your ass kicked versus Baylor. You were never in control of that game. You were beaten soundly. I think you're better than TCU in many ways. I think the stat sheet shows it. Again, stats are for losers and all that if you want to play that card too. But you did so many of the things that we had said that you needed to do coming into this game. You get the takeaways. You win the turnover battle, +2.
Yeah.
You outrushed these guys by 60+ yards. You were perfect. I say perfect. You when you get into the red zone, you scored on 6 of 6 chances.
Yep.
I think you were really good on 4th down. You had a special teams touchdown. There's just like analytically, you look at a lot of these things and you go, well, if you do these things, you're going to win. Now, how you get to that point, and then some things you didn't do is ultimately why you lost because it was a a +2 in the turnover category instead of a +3 because you give up. I mean, Choice. You wake up on a Sunday or Monday morning, whenever you're listening to this, watching this, whatever it may be, or a Tuesday morning. It's not going to change, and you are ranked. Let me tell you where you rank in passing defense in the country.
I'm going to guess
133. You are dead last in the country with your passing defense.
That's gross.
And you give up, 100 and basically 160 yards in passing plays on 2 of them, a 75-yarder and an 84-yarder.
Yep.
You can't offensively. You could not capitalize on some of the takeaways that you had in the middle part of that game to the point where you go to the locker room up 17-14, but you've left a lot out there. I have way more issue with that than I do with a fumble at the end of the game on who should have been carrying it, what play was called. I have way more issue with you kind of playing with your food, if you will, a little bit in the middle part of the game, and you couldn't take advantage of some of the opportunities. And the fact that you get a strip sack on the 4 or 5 yard line and end up having to, attempt a fake field goal to get a touchdown. That's where, if I have an issue with the offense, that's where I have an issue with it. Not what you did at the end of the game, but it continues to amaze me. It continues, and it's going to always amaze me. I hadn't heard a word. I've gotten, I think, 6 or 7 texts from people, again, that I don't hear much from, that they want people fired, and I'm like, yeah, tell somebody else this. I have nothing to do with who is hired or fired. Okay.
We got several questions. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah, if you have things that you want to tell me, that's great, but I again, it's white noise to me. Like, I don't, that cute, that's what you think, but it's all on one side of the ball, and it's just amazing to me that everybody just okay with giving up 75 yards, 35-yard run here, 85-yard. There's plenty of issue on ultimately why you lost this game, I guess, is my point. Just like last week.
Yeah.
So it's just I just think that what you look like right now is the team that was picked to finish ninth in the Big 12. And there's reasons why you were picked to finish ninth in the Big 12. There were questions.
Yeah.
Those questions are now coming up. And now you're starting to get into your depth.
Yeah.
And some interesting injury situations. And oh, by the way, now you got a QB injury to deal with. So there's all of that. But and you missed your first field goal of the year. It was a long one. So I can't really fault Reese Burkhardt for missing that long one. It was just a bit wide. It was long enough. It just wide right. So damn, man. You even had a it's just kind of the day that it was. You even have a running into the kicker penalty on a punter.
Yeah.
They elect to take the penalty. They kick it shorter. They being TCU, and you still couldn't capitalize.
No.
Yeah.
That was the. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. You start off with the stats. If you take a blind look at the stats, 0, don't get to see the score, but you see everything else. You point at one team, but okay, that team had to have won. You look at it, it's like that team had to have won, and that team being Texas Tech. It was one of those anomaly type of games in that it seemed like everything that happened for TCU happened at the right time, and everything you allowed to happen or did not capitalize, as you're talking about, happened at the wrong time for Tech. You weren't able to capitalize off turnovers. It's the lack of complementary football for the second week in a row, or it's where you just are unable to. I mean, when your offense sputters a little bit, that's when you expect the defense to get a stop. We saw that over and over last week. The lack of complementary football against Baylor was the reverse. When your offense finally got the touchdown you needed to get it within 3 points, that happened two different times.
Yeah, defense
just let's go, and you get 2 easy touchdowns out of it. It was the opposite this week, where you finally get some stops, you get some momentum on your side, and you can't capitalize on that momentum. Well, you had that. I guess you had the stop on the 4, like you said, the strip sack that took a kicker running it into the end zone. But you also had the 4th down stop near midfield, and you had another interception. All of that in the first half, and you get 7 points out of that. The whole group.
Yeah, whereas in Tucson, I think you had 18 points off of your takeaways in that game.
Yeah, you've have to capitalize better off of that. And you put the game away. You put the game away if you don't.
Yeah, you could have if your offense would have capitalized on some of those takeaways when we're talking about it, and like you looked at your lead and it would have been, you could have already kind of extended it or been way up or whatever,
and then start running the clock to begin the second half.
But then when your offense does put it together and you're up 31-14, it's like you cannot get them stopped, and it's chunk play, big play, this and that, and then so.
No, you're talking about what you are. I mean, you're.
It's like there was multiple games played within the game. It's like the first part of the game, then this portion of the whatever. Then there was the latter part of the game. It's like they're all vastly different.
I mean, I feel like we have hopped in a time machine and gone back about a decade towards the Cliff Kingsbury era, because you've got right now the worst defense, worst pass defense in the country, and the best offense in the Big 12. Right now, Tech is ranked number 1 in offense in the Big 12, as everybody's ready to fire people. It's just one of those things where you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out, because I agree with you. You're a better team than the one you played on Saturday, but that doesn't matter if you're not going to win. if you're not going
You
to
don't
score
get a
more points.
result. Yep. You don't get a result.
We got a whole heap of questions.
And these two losses, they hurt worse than any win that you've had this year, simply because there's not many games that you're going to have that there's some emotional tie to it, with proximity. And for you to have lost to Baylor and TCU, and really Oklahoma State is the only other one that you could even add into this category, that's what is really frustrating and like stings worse and makes it hurt worse, and what you got to carry it throughout the year. On, and you're gonna, again, you're gonna get a lot of smack talk to you from the TCU social media folks and the Baylor social media folks, and and it's gonna be in your face a lot more with the hitting the toad and the all the crap that Baylor, I mean, whatever, and you get to wear it, and whereas, hell, I don't know what Arizona's doing, I don't know what Cincinnati's doing. I don't know what Arizona State's got going on, but you're going to be very well aware of what Baylor and TCU are doing, and you're going to recruit head to head with these people, and you're going to continue to recruit head to head to these people. And so, okay, so let's go rapid fire on some of these questions, because I've taken up way too much time here.
No, it's fine. A whole group of questions I'll lump into one. I'll read them all together. When does the coaching search start? That's from Twitter. Brandon says, I think it's time to move on from Kitley and DeRuyter. That's one of the first I've seen of that. What are your thoughts? Gil says, will any coaches be held accountable after this loss? That's some of the questions.
I mean, when you lose the way you did, I mean, I think Joey said as much. First of all, I don't. There's not any fiber in my being with the knowledge that I have that Joey McGuire is going anywhere. Does his staff look the same? That's a fair question. I think it depends on how you finish up. But when you lose, this is what happens in this sport. It's a business. This is just the way it goes.
But to answer now, you don't expect any in-season changes at this point, right? With staff.
I mean, I don't know. I think people. Yeah, like, okay, so I guess my question would be, depending on what you're talking about there, like, okay, well, change somebody and elevate whom? Like, is that what I'm being asked? Or it's like, I mean, or do you take certain responsibilities away? I don't know. I don't think so, but yeah, I mean, when you when you don't get results, I mean, these are questions that get asked. I certainly understand it. And you've had a lot of continuity with your staff. You've won more than you've lost, but I think people are ready to push through, and you're ready to graduate from some of these things. And right now you're teetering on not necessarily graduating, but just kind of staying in this, like, taking freshman English over again. You know what I mean? And being kind of middling. Because I can, like, if you were to ask me, I don't like your chances this Saturday. I don't. But do I think you can win the remaining three? Yeah. But if you were to win, two or three more, that's a 7 or 8 win team. And again, this is kind of, I think we were wanting to talk about 8 or 9 win team before the year.
Sure we were.
And you were picked to finish 9th and all those things. And people will have very revisionist history with what their thoughts were and opinions were. And people got pumped up when you're 3-0 in the league and 5-1 overall and all those things. And now you're sitting at 5-3 and 3-2. But we'll just kind of see where it goes from here. And now you're beat to heck with various things. And so I don't know. We'll kind of see where things go from here.
Yeah. Here's another. I mean, there's several other coaching staff questions. When will Zach Kitley be? This, that. When can fans expect coaching changes? When? Here's one that's a little different. Zach asks on Twitter, at what point do we question the nutrition and conditioning staff? These injuries are out of control and not just unlucky.
I mean,
it's a little different.
I've been doing this for about 25 years, and inevitably that's what happens when I mean,
Yeah,
if you can tie nutrition and strength and conditioning into um like potential collarbone issues, um, a foot issue, um, concussions or head injuries.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I don't.
I mean, we've got 4 knee injuries that have guys out for the season, and I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
But
I
I get it. Again, this is what happens when you lose, though. Everything sucks. Everybody should be questioned. I mean, even bad podcast hosts like yourself and I will get questioned. That's just how it works. I understand.
well, why'd you start with me before you on the
I
bad
said
podcast
plural. I
stuff?
said bad podcast hosts like you
No,
and I.
I'm just
Well, sorry.
I'm just
Yeah,
teasing, man.
yeah,
I'm just teasing. Okay, Paolo on Twitter
yeah.
asks.
And my question is
Okay, go
my
ahead.
question is if you were to make a change with your offensive coordinator, which so many people like spout off, and because you just mentioned your number one ranked off, so I guess that they solely blame the loss on the play caller and Zach Kitley. Is that what I'm understanding? Is that where the
I
blame is to be pointed?
I think
So
most of
so
what
let me.
I've seen has blamed the final play on offense. If okay, my thoughts first and foremost, and sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you here, but
Oh no, you're fine.
that play in particular, um, my thoughts right before that were like, hey, if you're trying to get a first down while running the football, you might surprise them with a quarterback draw here because everybody and their dog thinks it's going to Taj Brooks. And revisionist history probably should have gone to Taj Brooks. But that was my initial thought. I also wouldn't have minded seeing you be more aggressive and throw the football there just because you're going to leave basically 2 minutes on the clock for them to go if you make the field goal. That's the other part. It would
Which
have been
I
a
think
fairly
they were
long.
going to be aggressive and throw the football because there's an RPO concept, and you kind of muff the mesh point and the ball
Yeah.
falls on the ground. That's a couple plays earlier or whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And I think you were about to try to hit. I mentioned this to you guys on the broadcast. They were about to take a shot to Coy Aiken down
Sure.
the Tech sideline, but then you get all off schedule. Then you just you get down into it. And I had somebody go, "Why are we letting this QB run the ball?" Like this is what I guess is sometimes frustrating to me is people again, if you want to have that opinion, fine.
Mhm.
People do realize I hope they do, and if not, let's educate them, because you could point to the last play and it's a poor decision on who carried it, or this should have gotten it, or you should have done this, we should have done it. This is what people are going to say when it didn't work. However, you will if Will Hammond plays and continues to play some because of Baron Morton's injury, he is going to run the ball.
Yeah.
This is what he is.
It's his game.
He had 2,300 rushing yards in high school. 2,300. He ran for 34 touchdowns in high school, I believe. This is what he is. This is what you recruited. And why is he here for the people that are excited about it? Zach Kitley. Zach Kitley chose him, built a relationship with him, got him here.
Yep.
You know what else? You know what else factors into any conversation about Zach Kitley? You know who Zach Kitley is closest with? Maybe more so than anybody on campus. And not that this is why he should be in the job that he is,
Patrick
but
Mahomes.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
So this is why it's just so for all you Chiefs fans out there, for all you new Chiefs fans out there that have been a lifelong Chiefs fan that love Pat Mahomes, you know who Patrick Mahomes talks to on a weekly basis?
Zach
He
Kitley.
talks to on a weekly basis. I think sometimes multi-weekly basis.
Yeah.
Zach Kitley. They are extreme. They are tighter than anybody on that campus because they go way back in its infancy. There's not a better relationship on Texas Tech's campus that anybody has with Patrick Mahomes than Zach Kitley. So should that factor in? That's up to you to decide. I don't know. I'm just wanting people to get some context here before you, because I mean, make a change. fire the guy that's got the number one offense in the Big 12. Alienate your most famous alumni. Send Will Hammond to the portal. I mean, I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm just saying there's a lot going on here, and yet you're giving up 74 and 85-yard touchdown passes, but nobody seems to. That doesn't bother anybody. Doesn't bother anybody. Not one person.
Well, and then
Did you get any questions about that? Did you get any questions about that?
we got the one
Boys?
that mentioned DeRuyter with Kitley, two together, but that was, I believe, of every question we have, I believe that's it. I think, and that's my point is, heck, if you don't fumble the football there, I don't have just a ton of faith that you're gonna. I do think you'll probably make the field goal, but I mean, is your defense going to get a stop and keep them from getting a field goal themselves? Based off of what we had seen in the previous two drives for TCU, that's where it's just, you lost, and that was a part of the game. That was a part where Will Hammond fumbles the football. If you ask Zach Kitley if he'd like to have the play call back, well, now, yes, but in the moment.
But there's no guarantee you're making the field goal.
No, and that's a big part of it too. There's so many ways that I think, even if Will Hammond holds on to that football there, or even if you run it with Taj for 3 or 4 yards, and they had the box stacked, the odds are stacked against you to win that football game with how much time is left on the clock. You're most likely losing one way or the other, and a huge part of that, or the main part of losing that game, is that you blow a 34-21 lead because your defense gives up 2 massive plays. And you just.
And again, so I'm clear. My criticism of the offense, and I think it's very fair, is very much in the middle of the game when you played with your food.
Agreed.
For a variety of drives, and you couldn't capitalize. You played non-complimentary football.
Yeah.
Like you didn't make TCU pay for your defense finally doing what we had asked and doing some things and what we wanted to see, and then your offense couldn't take advantage. But the flip side is, then you kind of trade places, and the offense like, okay, we've got it together. Let's build us a lead. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to score, and then the defense goes back to. So I find it humorous. Like, we're watching completely different things that people. Point the finger at one aspect. I don't understand that for the life of me. Like, we were watching completely different programs, or you're just you're just so jaded that you're willing to just like gloss over, which I don't get that either. You rank 133rd in the country in pass defense. Woodman, there is 133 Division I teams.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's doing math on my fingers.
But
that's
yet, no questions, and like, that's what is so. That's what makes my head explode.
My biggest, I guess, if I have a biggest gripe from this game towards coaches or towards anything, and this is maybe personality or whatever, I wish you would have been more aggressive down around the goal line. I think you have the 24-yard field goal by Gino Garcia to put you up by 13. And
I'll tell you why I had zero problem with that. Because now, granted, in hindsight, I wish you'd have been more aggressive.
Yeah,
too.
It's easy for me to sit here and say.
But at the time, I thought it was the right call. You got a true freshman quarterback in there.
True. Yeah.
Because you get that lead to 13, you now protect yourself from a touchdown and a field goal. So we're going to require 2 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. But also the flip side was, okay, you go up 13 when they score a touchdown. All then it requires you to do is just go kick a field goal, and then you're up 9.
That's true.
And you're still have extended. So that's why it's got a lot going on there. And why true freshman quarterback, but also, I don't know if anybody has noticed this or not. You're not very good on the offensive line. You're just not. You are average. I think sometimes it looks better than others, but when everybody knows you're going to run it, it sometimes doesn't go well. And so that's why I was concerned there too, of like, okay, if you go handing it here with your bruiser, but he could have easily been stuffed, and that would, and then you're going, should have kicked it, because you don't have a bunch of people movers up front. And you had different guys in the game at that point. I don't
Yeah.
remember if Fatig was in the game at the time, but you obviously got Buchanan in because Merriman was hurt. So,
Yep.
yeah, that's my stance. I certainly understand where you're coming from, too.
No, I mean,
I wish you'd have been more aggressive now that we know what we know.
well,
for sure.
revisionist history, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, about 3 more questions, and then we'll move on and look ahead towards Iowa State and maybe a little basketball because that does start right around the corner. Gil says, did Hammond get dinged on a quarterback run after he went 9 for 9 to start? Seemed like his passing was a little off after that.
Not that I'm aware of. He did. Is this because of the roughing the QB or the QB? Yeah, I don't. I mean, he got roughed. There was a roughing the passer where he got laid out.
Yeah, but I think he was 6 for 6, so he went 3 for 3 after that point.
Yeah,
So
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. And he's added about, and hey, look, man, and I get fired up about this stuff. And when you lose, everybody gets frustrated.
Everybody's mad. Yeah,
and all this stuff, and it's like everything sucks. And so. I get people's passion. I appreciate it. I could be an idiot a lot of the time, but it's just this stuff's hard. But there's just some things that like I just can't quite grasp when everybody does start pointing fingers because it's just I just can't process it. And people are probably watching me going that would strongly disagree with what I'm saying. Going, how can he not process it?
How are you not mad at?
Yeah, we will. Well, no, I mean the whole losing is frustrating.
No, I think there's people listening to you right now that are saying, how are you so blinded? How are you not mad at Kitley?
And I would look back and we would agree to disagree.
Yeah. In Lubbock, Texas, we are. And I say we as a whole because we have been conditioned to offense for so long. We are so one-track minded that's where the brain goes. No one sits there and gripes about a play call.
But you just told me you have the number 1 offense in the Big 12.
I know. And that's only in Lubbock, Texas are you trying to fire an offensive
and what is that? Is that total offense or scoring offense or both? What
I think you're sitting at both. I know for sure it's total offense, yardage.
So
I saw that this morning. Okay. I think scoring offense is still there too, but I'm not 100% certain. Okay, someone asks, with McCray not playing, why did Hudson not get more reps?
They don't play the same position. Micah Hudson plays Z receiver, which is also what Caleb Douglas plays, which had 9 catches, 140.
I got it right here. 140 yards, exactly.
Yeah, 9 catches, 140 yards.
That's the big ones.
Yeah, and I think Micah hasn't done well with the kick returns. So Jordan Brown got that run. Jordan Brown got a lot of the reps that.
Yep.
Jordan Brown's a good player. And it's. I mean, I'm ready for somebody to start asking why Jacoby Williams doesn't play more because he needs to.
Golly. Shifty, man. That was definitely a bright spot coming out of the game. Paolo asks, let me dig it back up. Are you folks? No, wrong one. He asked.
You folks?
Are you folks? No,
idiots? Yes.
Do you guys consider a bare minimum bowl berth a failed season? So if you make a bowl game,
sure, yeah, I would, yeah. I mean,
failed is a strong word. I'd call it disappointing, but I don't call it a failed season.
Yeah, like a bowl game. Yeah, like you didn't meet expectations. I mean, I think what you're looking for here, folks, is progress.
Yeah,
and depending on how they finish up, I think you still have a chance to make some progress, but you're not pushing forward. Yeah. I think that 2 weeks ago you're like, okay, maybe it's about to happen, and then here you fall back. Now you got another QB injury and all these things, but you're looking for progress. Now, I think the one thing too, though, is that as you start to see these glimpses of some of these younger players, you can start to suggest strongly that your talent has been upgraded as you start to see some glimpses here of what the youth has in store for you. And that's what's tricky about the whole thing is that can you hang around long enough to realize that young talent?
I mean, we've heard Coach McGuire say multiple times that this recruiting class they just had, this freshman class they have right now, might go down as the best class Tech has ever had in terms of freshmen in high school, or in terms of high school recruits, and you're seeing some of that immediately this year. We've seen plenty of it this year, and
Well, when I lay eyes on Eddie Smith and Charles Anderson,
Philly,
Chet Feely,
yeah,
and we know what Micah Hudson's gonna do here, and we've seen some glimpses there. And then I see Cam Dickey and Jacoby Williams, and I see Will Hammond. I think Trey Jackson is a name that people will go, "Who's that?"
tight
Yeah,
end, right?
it's a young tight end
Yeah,
that needs a little more time. But yeah, I think, and then some Jacob Ponton,
yeah,
who I think, if there was an issue at tackle right now, I think he would skip over a lot of people and he'd get, yeah. So that I can see why they would say something like that, because and again, like I mentioned this to you on the broadcast, but when you lose Devin Cromwell and you lose Chapman Lewis and
yeah.
Joseph Plunk is in there, there's two safeties that I know that they're very high on. And Tim DeRuyter is like, we hadn't really even seen these guys or practiced with them because they've been on the scout team field
Yeah,
since August. But that's Peyton Morgan and Malika Skara that I think everybody's very high on internally. So
and they may make a trip to Ames this week because of how you're
it's
looking in the secondary.
I'd be willing to bet you a number one with cheese at Whataburger that at least one of them
At
does.
least one of them. Yeah, I would think so. Okay. It is. Let's see what we got time for. It's not officially basketball week, so we'll hold a couple of basketball questions till next week because that will be the start of the basketball season. But level, quick preview of of a undefeated Iowa State team. I mean, there's a reason they're unbeaten. They've had a couple of scares lately, so I guess the question for me is, do you give Texas Tech any sort of chance in Ames?
Yeah, like so I looked this up. You're about to play the best defense in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't think that anybody can debate that. I mean, like some of the numbers, it's like they haven't hardly given up. I mean, they had more interceptions as a defense than touchdowns allowed a couple of weeks ago. Just to try that one on. Just process that stat. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so Tech offense is ranked 18th in the country. Iowa State's defense is ranked 18th in the country.
Okay.
You know, Tech's pass defense is ranked 133 in the country. Iowa State's pass defense is ranked number 2
Two.
in the country.
Ooh.
So yeah, there was just a few numbers there. Yeah, Rocco Becht, they are just, I'm sure they're coming. You're about to play your next two games. You're going to play teams that are coming off of their bye.
Hmm.
You could say that is a big time disadvantage, especially with as beat up as you are. Maybe other teams come out sluggish, but yeah, you're about to get Iowa State fresh off of a bye week, which was this past weekend. You're going to turn around and play Colorado 2 weeks from this past weekend, your next home game. They aren't playing this upcoming weekend at all. So Iowa State will be fresh, energized, with a lot to play for. Rocco Becht has been really, really good. They have had some scares. Their defense is just very sound. You will have to, you know, grind away at it. I think you will have to try to get into a low scoring game. I say try to. I think you'll get into a low scoring game. You'll have to run the ball some, and you'll have to, Will Hammond will have to take care of it, but your defense is just going to have to. You can't be the 133rd pass defense in the country. You can't give up big giant chunk plays. They're going to have a million tight ends that are like 7'3", 295 pounds that have been growing up in a cornfield. I don't know where they find these dudes. I'm exaggerating on the height, but they always got like a bunch of Mason Tharps running down there that catch the
Yeah.
ball 50 yards down the field. And so, yeah, you have to pay attention to what you're doing there. But at some point, like you would like to think that you'll go get one that you're not supposed to. You're going to be a double-digit underdog here. You're not supposed to get this one. I don't know what your quarterback situation looks like heading into this one. My sneaking suspicion is Will Hammond's show here, and maybe you go pull off a shocker, a stunner. I don't know, or you'll get your head kicked in.
Is this one of those, I guess, that you could, my question is, could you play it like you did 2 years ago? Play an ugly, low scoring game and potentially scratch one out?
Honestly,
Or is that possible?
well, I think that may be the only way you can win this one is if it's like that. I don't know if you can. You're averaging you're averaging close to, what was it, like 36 to 37 points a game on offense.
Mhm.
I think you're going to have a very difficult time getting to anything close to that this weekend, short of a defensive score or a special team score or something like that.
Sure.
So it's going to have to be a lower scoring game, kind of maybe even a boring game. That's the only recipe I see for you, really.
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But
Yeah.
this could be a tough. This could be the best team you've played all year.
If it is Will Hammond's first start, the thought of that confusing cloud defense for a freshman quarterback in his first start is a little scary.
But his legs.
Sure.
And I mean, and the thing I'll say about Will Hammond, he's got it, dude.
He does.
I mean, he is. He will not be intimidated. He will not. The moment won't be too big for him. There will be mistakes. Make that clear, because this is what freshman quarterbacks do sometimes. But with a week to prepare and a game plan catered to him and all those things, I think that it could be fun at the glimpse of the future. But I see we're running out of time. But Woodman, I appreciate it. Hey, and I appreciate the passion from the fans. I give it right back, and you give it back to me, and that's and you do too, Woodman. And I just we're all on the same team here. So thank you to Cantex Roofing, and guns up.
I love it. Yes, thank y'all for listening, because we're not here if you don't listen, watching. So we do appreciate you. Appreciate all the questions. Keep them pouring in. Hopefully we'll have a happier one of these soon. But Level, we'll talk to you next week. He's Chris Level. I'm Chois Woodman. It's been the Ask Level podcast, brought to you by Double T 97.3.
You've been listening to the Ask Level podcast, powered by Double T 97.3.